$529 billion. $529 billion is how much the federal government has spent on IT since 2008. Roughly $577 million has been spent at the Office of Personnel Management. Roughly 80% of that money has been spent on legacy systems. And we're in a situation here where the hurricane has come and gone, and just now OPM is wanting to board up the windows. That's what it feels like. This is a major, major security breach, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, we have ever seen. This demands all of our attention and great concern about what happened, how we're going to prevent it from happening in the future, and what are we going to do with the information now? Because there is no simple, easy solution. But I can tell you, oftentimes it feels like one good trip to Best Buy and we could help solve this problem. It would be a whole lot better than where we are today. There are a lot of questions that remain about what happened last month. And the uncertainty is very disconcerting to a host of people. And it's unacceptable to this committee and to the Congress. The most recent public reports indicate that many more Americans were affected by the breach than originally disclosed. Federal workers and their families deserve answers on both the scope of the breach and the types of personal information compromised. Because of these many outstanding questions, we still don't understand the extent to which the breach threatens our national security. However, according to the intelligence community, the risk is significant. Only the imagination limits what a foreign adversary could do with detailed information about a federal employee's education, career, health, family, friends, neighbors, and personal habits. I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter we received on June 16th from the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. I want to read part of it. Here are the concerns about the Office of Personnel Management data breaches, our demands of the government, and a list of questions that remain unanswered. They represent some 28,000 current and retired federal law enforcement officers and special agents from over 65 different agencies. This is what they wrote. OPM turned its back on federal law enforcement officers when they failed to protect sensitive information from an inexcusable breach, and OPM's delay and aloof response is pathetic and irresponsible miscarriage of its obligations to affected Americans. The very lives of federal law enforcement officers are now in danger, and their safety and security of innocent people, including their families, are now in jeopardy because of OPM's abysmal failure and its continued ignorance in the severity of the breach. The information loss includes personal, financial, and location information of these officers and their families, leaving them vulnerable to attack and retaliation from criminals and terrorists currently or formerly investigated by the United States of America. Without objection, I will enter this into the record. OPM is currently attempting to overhaul its technical infrastructure, but without a full understanding of the scope or the cost of the project. In fact, the agency kept the project from the Inspector General for more than a year. The IG determined OPM's Chief Information Officer, quote, initiated this project without a complete understanding of the scope of OPM's existing technical infrastructure or the scale and cost of the effort required to mitigate it to the new environment, end quote. Because of these concerns, the project is, quote, possibly making OPM environment less secure and increasing costs to taxpayers, end quote. The IG also raised questions about why OPM awarded a sole source contract for this project without going through the process for full and complete competition. In fact, I would like to enter into the record without objection. This is an article from the Washington Post. This is May 13th. Defense firm that employed drunk high contractors in Afghanistan may have wasted $135 million in taxpayer dollars. These are the recipients of a sole source contract to try to help clean up this mess. They were formerly known as Jorge Scientific Corporation. They're now known as Imperatus Corporation. They have a good list of very impressive military personnel who are involved and engaged. Maybe this is the right decision. But when it is a sole source contract, it does beg a lot of questions. No doubt we need to move fast, but this organization has had a lot of problems in the past, and it begs a lot of questions. In addition to data security problem, we have a data management problem. It is unclear why so much background information related to security clearances was readily available on the OPM system to be hacked. It is unclear to me why there is a need for SF-86 background information. The SF-86 is the standard Form 86. It's what the employees or prospective employees fill out. Why was this background information on the network if the applicant isn't currently being investigated? Part of the reason we're in this mess, and we have such a big mess in our hands, is a lot of information, the information and background checks that we're not even engaging in was still on the system. If information isn't accessible on the network, it can't be hacked. So if a security clearance isn't under investigation to wall off the data, it's a best practice that others use and probably should have been used in this situation as well. We have to do a better job of anticipating our adversaries and protecting information from unnecessary exposure. One of the concerns is that this legacy system that we're using is a COBOL. The language used is COBOL. I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record, a Wall Street Journal article from April 22nd, 1963. COBOL can help users cut costs when changing models. Government spurs progress. 1963, I wasn't even born yet. And that's the system that we're operating on in this day and age when technology is changing moment by moment, minute by minute. Without objection, I will enter that into the record. Yesterday, Ms. Archuleta stated that no one is personally responsible for the OPM data breach and instead blamed the hackers. Hackers certainly have a lot of culpability on their hands. There's no doubt that there are nefarious actors that are going to be attacking the United States on a moment-by-moment basis. We literally take millions of hits on a daily basis. That's not new news. But I disagree that nobody is to be held personally responsible. Personal accountability is paramount. People have roles, responsibilities. They are charged with their fiduciary responsibility of carrying out those. As the head of the agency, Ms. Archuleta is in fact statutorily responsible for the security of the OPM network and managing any risks. And while she may have inherited a lot of problems, she was called on by the President and confirmed by the Senate to protect the information maintained by OPM. During her confirmation in 2013, she stated that IT modernization would be one of her main priorities. Yet it took a security breach in March of 2014, 5 months after the confirmation, to begin the process of developing a plan to fix the problem. That was just the beginning of the start to think about how to fix the problem. And yet the shift in blame is just inexcusable. I really hope we hear solid answers. It's not going to be good enough to say, oh, well, we'll get you that information. It's under investigation. There's a security. No, we're going to answer questions. Federal workforce, the people affected, they need to hear that. We're different. We're unique in this world because we are self-critical, and we do have hearings like this. I would also ask unanimous consent to enter 2 letters into the record. One was a flash audit that was done. It was June 17th of this year. From Patrick McFarland, the Inspector General. It's the flash audit, U.S. Office of Personnel Management Information Improvement Project. Without objection, I will enter that into the record. I will also ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the June 22nd response by the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, Ms. Archuleta, and I ask unanimous consent to enter that into the record as well. Without objection, so ordered. We also have some contractors here, and we appreciate their participation. They have answers, or we have questions that need to be answered as well. We need their cooperation to figure this out. A lot of what was done by OPM was contracted out. And there are very legitimate questions, in particular, that Mr. Cummings and others have asked, and that's why I'm pleased to have them invited and participating as well. So it'll be a full and robust committee hearing. We appreciate all the participation. As I conclude, I would also say, without objection, the Chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time.